Welcome to the postcast tonight. David Locke along with Ron Boone after the Jazz fall to the Philadelphia 76ers 99-93. Let's just start big picture. How bad a loss is this? This was a team that was not playing well. They had high hopes when the year started, but they don't have Andrew Bynum. Kind of felt like this one when we walked in tonight. If you played well, you got it. How painful is this to not grab this one tonight?
Well, it's painful because this was an excellent chance to catch a team when they're not playing very, very well. But before the ball game, I talked to Coach Corbin. He was very concerned with this basketball game because the Sixers played so poorly against the Pistons that he thought that they were going to come out with a tremendous amount of energy and they were going to try to just do what they did, just outscore you and execute and do everything well. So it was a bad loss for the Jazz because this is a winnable basketball game, and then they just didn't get the job done.
You know, it's so funny how little possessions, maybe we're making this up in the media about where things are impacting the game and things of that nature. But let's go to the first possessions of the night. You were at shoot-around today. You attend the shoot-arounds. Mike Sanders tells us at halftime the game plan was to fight over the top of the pick and rolls on Richardson and Holiday. Those are the two guys that shoot the three as well. Holiday came in shooting 44%. Richardson came in shooting 38%. But as a team, they're just 36%. So if you can take those two guys off behind the arc, they don't have a lot of other shooters. And what happens on the opening possessions of the game? But Mo Williams goes below on the pick and roll on one of them. Gordon Hayward, I think, gets caught below on a pick. I'm not sure it was Gordon, but I'm just assuming because he was matched up on him. And what happens? But these guys hit their first opening shots, and all of a sudden, Philadelphia is rolling with confidence, and their 29% shooting percentage in Detroit has left the building.
That's exactly right. I mean, the way they worked on the game plan this morning was to go underneath those screens. I mean, go over the top of the screen. Now, they also had a play, not see them run tonight, where there was a double screen, where they wanted to go over the top on the first one and then go underneath on the second one, just so to make sure you're able to catch up. But you got to give the 76ers credit here, Dave, because those screens that were set there by Kwame Brown was excellent. And then when you have an experienced guard that uses those screens very well, that will not let you slide between there, and you're trailing behind them, it just creates so much problem. So you have to give the guard line, I think, a tremendous amount of credit. But the deal was to go over the top of those screens, and if your defense is set that way, and your teammates are set that way, they think that you're going to go over the top, and you don't do it, then it screws you.
Kwame Brown, kind of a laughing stock of this league, is the number one pick, and Michael gets beat up on a lot about it, and he should be for that. But now he's a very serviceable player. He's actually a player 2 years ago the Jazz flew out to visit with, trying to sign him as a free agent. He completely took Al Jefferson out of this game in the left block.
Well, you see it. You can see this, and you talked about it a lot here, about his defense. And if that's going to be his legacy in the NBA, then let it be, because he's definitely not a scorer. And if you put him on a team where they don't need him, then he can be valuable to your basketball team, especially if
I'm kind of impressed by some things I saw out of Philadelphia today, and maybe some things the Jazz can learn from. You know, we've talked all season long that when you're on the road and you're in these key moments and the run is coming at you, you've got to have a really, really good, smart, strong possession. In the key stretch of the game, the Jazz had 3 straight possessions that left us shaking our heads. I don't remember exactly what they were, but one was a canter 18-footer. There were just 3 possessions that just they weren't what you want. It was a tie game at 71, and the Jazz came out with 3 possessions that were all over the map, and they came out and did the exact opposite. Then the Jazz got down to 86-82, and they came back and got back-to-back possessions at the rim. You know, maybe there's some lessons to be learned from it. The team is not as good as you are talent-wise, but they came out and did exactly what you need to do, the little things in the key possessions to play right.
So you'd have to think that their defensive game plan worked. And again, when you get the defense in a scramble, then usually you can come up with something. But the Jazz ended up taking shots they probably shouldn't have been taking. So if their defense is said, okay, if Cantor or gets 20 feet away from the basket, don't go out there. You know, if he wants to shoot it, let him shoot it. And you know, then you know the defense is working, regardless of if he had an uncontested shot. It just depends on how Coach Collins wanted to set their defense and who they wanted to make sure they gave shots to, who they wanted to double team. This guy can't pass out of a double team. There's so much to playing a solid defense that other than, you know, just trying to stay in front of your man, because nowadays it's so much help defense, and everybody has to be on the same cue.
Few other notes tonight. Jazz allow 5 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter when every possession matters. Man, if I have a theme for tonight, from a Jazz standpoint, I would go to what great, and this is no way a great team, but what do great teams do in the NBA? They value every possession. They execute the game plan we're talking about. They just don't let you get 5 second chance opportunities in the fourth quarter. I mean, you put this list together, and frankly, it's how you lose a basketball team against a team that you feel like you should beat tonight. They just, whether it was the early game focus, the key possession focus, or late game defensive rebounding, I mean, it doesn't matter what you do defensively if you don't clear the glass.
Rebounding is always going to be the key. Rebounding and taking care of the basketball. You listen to coaches and their concerns, rebounding and taking care of the basketball. Now, let's give 76ers some credit here, because every time the Jazz made a run, they either tied the basketball game. What happened? They call a timeout, they come out of the timeout, and they go on a run of their own. So they were able to withstand the Jazz runs and take advantage of who they had out there on the floor.
Bright spot of the Jazz tonight has to be Tyrone Corbin pulled the DeMarre Carroll card out of his pack of cards that nobody expected to see, and boom, he was fabulous tonight and changed the game with his tenacity and his energy.
It really did. When he came in the first time, you could just see that he was ready to play. And Coach Corbin's going to love that. I would imagine he's going to reward him for the effort he had tonight, and realize that that's the type of energy that you need, because he doesn't lose anything defensively. He plays great defense. Now he's showing us he can shoot the basketball. And so you don't lose anything with him out there on the floor. I would imagine he's going to start to get playing time.
And now the trick for Tyrone Corbin in a season of tricks and a season of juggling acts is that when you play DeMarre Carroll, you can't play your big lineup, which has been so successful for you. So just add yet another one on the list of big decisions that Tyrone has to make. We're in Washington tomorrow. The Jazz need a win, because the Jazz have lost
2 and
6
4
of
is not
7.
bad.
No, 2 and 2. You mean on the road would be fine. 3 and 1 would be great. 2 and 2 would be great, and particularly because Washington's 0 and 7.
Yeah.
And you just don't want to be the team.
Don't be the first
team
to lose.
You don't want to be that team.
Yeah.
Let's hope we're not that team. There'll be no postcast tomorrow if we're that team. No, just kidding. Hopefully we'll bounce back. 2 and 2 road trip would be nice. We're home Monday against Houston. Make sure you come on out and join us for that one, and then Sacramento Friday after Thanksgiving. So we get a little rest, we get home, and hopefully get this thing right. The road has been an ugly place for the Jazz, but they didn't play as well tonight as they did against Boston. Fought hard in Toronto, finished the road trip nicely in Washington, all's okay. Jazz fall tonight to the Philadelphia 76ers 99-93, and DeMarre Carroll was the star. He's also the feature in the Get to Know podcast this week, so make sure you go grab that on iTunes as well. Have a good one.